On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very special treat. He's a WWE Hall of Famer and multi-time world champion and one of the most charismatic superstars in the history of the wrestling business. He's a motivational speaker and author of one of my personal favorite books, Positively Unstoppable. He's an absolute legend and fitness guru and is the founder of DDPY, a phenomenon of a program whose mission is to empower others to think beyond conditional limits. He's just an overall juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific human being. Please welcome the iconic Diamond Dallas Page, DDP. How you doing, DDP?
Dude, I never had a bad day in my life.
How'd I do you on the intro? Good?
Do what?
I did good for you on the intro?
Oh, tremendous.
Okay.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
You know, I've had a lot of them, but that's right up there.
We're going to jump around a little bit. Like I said, the podcast is breaking records and the audience is so engaging and they want to hear a little bit about the journey. But obviously I want to talk about all the great stuff that you have going on now, but we'll jump around a little bit. But I just wanted you to know personally, like I was telling you before we went on air, I'm a diehard wrestling fan. I have been my whole life. You were always my favorite wrestler of all time. You were the best. I read your book in 2017 at a time when I really needed it. And I know a lot of people probably tell you like, oh, you know, they're huge fans and so forth. But when I say it, I mean it. And I just wanted to read a couple excerpts, notes that I took from your book that really played an impact and I stick with me today.
Wow.
Negativity can have a really powerful effect if you let it. Change the story you tell yourself. Suspend your disbelief. Burn the damn boats, victory or death. Don't just think it, ink it. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Start small, hack away at your goal. Believing in yourself is a 24/7 job. I can go on, but those specifically, they resonate with me. And I go back to my notes every now and then and read them. Really played a huge role in my life. I just wanted you to know that.
That's first of all, you did that without me telling you to do that, because I tell everybody, if you're going to read the book, highlight it. Highlight those things that stick with you, and then go back and read them, and then go back and read them, and then go back and read them. And I can already tell, like, they're burnt into your brain.
Yes.
And then when you get hit with adversity, and we all get hit with adversity in our personal lives and our professional lives, most times we have no control of it, but we do have control of our mindset, the way we think, the way we react, the way we adapt, the way we take action, and the way we breathe. And if you've got shit like that burned into your brain, your odds of pouncing right back out are way better than the person who's going to pull themselves down with emotional gravity.
100%. It's just like I always tell my clients and so forth, like, if you work out often, you have a good chance of being in good shape. The mind is no different. You have to condition yourself to always be sharpening the axe, affirmations, thinking positively like I know you do. If anything, the mind's even more important than anything else. So you got to stick with it. I love that you said that. Before we jump around, we're going to start the journey. We're going to have fun. I'm going to ask you quick, weird questions. You ready?
Go for it.
DDP, what is your superpower?
The power of positive energy.
Ooh, love that. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Unstoppable, unstoppable, unstoppable.
Bang! That's awesome. What's something very interesting about you that a lot of people might not know?
I wear my heart on my sleeve. Pretty much everybody knows everything about me. You know, I don't think there's really anything that people don't know. For people who don't know who I am, I'm ridiculously empathetic for people.
I love that. That's really special. And that's a tribute to everything that you're doing now. DDP, what was the most exhilarating experience you ever had in the wrestling business?
Being put in the Hall of Fame.
Ooh, love that.
You know, because it was everything. I got to thank everyone, because it wasn't just, it was my work ethic because nobody believed in me. When you start wrestling at 35, you know, and your career takes off at 40, you know, at that point, I started to make people believers. But the Hall of Fame, it was one of the best weekends. I mean, it was because you really get all the accolades for all the hard work. And I'm not a guy that needs to be patted on the back. I'd rather go, yeah, thanks a lot. You know, yeah, I'm doing really good. Thank you. And let's talk about you. But I'm really not a person who needs that. Matter of fact, I shy away from it. But for that weekend, being acknowledged by your peers, when you got Ric Flair, okay, Ric Flair and I have had years ago in the business, we had some little bit of conflict, and afterwards we had some conflict, and I love Ric Flair, but just there was situations that we ended up in those positions, and right when he retired, there was this big send-off WWE gave him, and long story short, we were both going to be at an autograph signing, and I decided I was going to do my best to fix this. So when Rick came in the green room, you know, he's Ric Flair. He gets mobbed by everybody, and when he got down, it was just me and him. He's like, "Hey, Diamond, how you doing, buddy?" I was like, "Hey, Rick, you got a chance to talk?" He's like, "Sure." I pull him aside and I said, "Listen, bro, I know that, you know, over the years, me and you have had heat." And he's like, "Oh, Diamond, don't worry about that." I go, "Rick, I'm not worried about it. I'd really like to try to fix it." I said, "I don't know what happened between us. I know I've said some things, you said some things." I go, I don't care. I said, I love Ric Flair. I said, I don't want to feel like this about you. And I sure as hell don't want you to feel this way about me. I said, I would love to start all over again. And I put my hand out and I said, "I'm Diamond Dallas Page." he popped, gave me a big hug, kiss on the forehead. God bless you. And really, it was done. It was done. So now you got to remember the biggest stepping stone that put me that close to the Hall of Fame podium was Ric Flair taking the diamond cutter and me becoming the world champion. And I never really I thanked him, of course, but I never really thanked him as important as that was to me, the way I wanted to. And because of the conflict on and off that we had. So when it came to Hall of Fame week, and I started going through my speech, and my speech was 27 minutes. And they don't let you go over 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they went up, the one of the head writers, Foz, said, "Well, let me hear it." And when he heard it, he went back to the head producer and Kevin Dunn, and Kevin told him to tell me, "Just don't go over 30." and one of the things was really thanking Ric Flair for putting me in that position, because he didn't have to, but he did. And I mean, I really put him over it because I wanted him to know how much it meant to me. And it meant a lot to him.
Yeah.
And that Monday before, you know, we're all going home, I was walking to the elevator and Rick yelled to me at the bar, and he brought me over and we started talking, and he said, "You still living in Atlanta?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "What time's your flight?" I said, 7:30. He's like, "Who the hell booked that?" I go, "Not me, man. I hate to be up before 9 o'clock. He goes, "Listen, I got the Learjet. Me, you, my second ex-wife at the time." You know, he's like, he goes, "I'm taking you guys back in the limousine, the Learjet, the whole nine." And I was like, "Rick, I've got so many bags. We're like the Griswolds." And he's like, "I don't want to hear shit. There's a FedEx literally right in the same building. Ship your bags home. You're a Hall of Famer now. You're coming home with me." And this is a picture of me and Rick about to get on his Learjet.
That's
Is that
great.
great?
Look at those two legends.
Oh man,
What a great
it was such.
day.
And then he found out it was my birthday, so he wouldn't. When we got to Atlanta, he had the limo take us all right to his favorite restaurant, and we wined and dined, and so that was my favorite like moments. Of course, yeah, winning the world title is right up there with that. But that's the accumulation of everything, you know.
I love all of it, brother. This is hitting right to my soul because I'm such a fan, and I love how you pull back the curtain on these stories. I'm gonna ask you one more weird one before we dive in and get deep. You ready for me?
Sure, man.
What's a more devastating finishing maneuver, the diamond cutter or Randy Orton's RKO?
Oh, stop it. Bang! Diamond cutter. But I'll tell you what, though, Randy, what up? Bang! You know, when you can, there's a video, and you got to go try and look for it. Just called Diamond Cutters on Everyone. And if you go back, and it starts in like 95, this kid who did the video. So when you see me hit the cutter, really wasn't out of nowhere yet. And a few people popped. And then I start catching out of nowhere. And I'm a bad guy. You know, I'm the heel. And a few more people pop. And then by the middle of it, people are jumping out of their seats, throwing up the cutter. When I hit it, it would blow the roof off. And when you look back at everyone I hit, they're all enhancement guys. Like that, you don't get reactions like that. Right. You hit Sting, you hit Hogan, Goldberg, Flair, you hit those guys. Yeah, you're going to get that reaction. But I was getting that reaction back then with no one's. But Randy has done a hell of a job. And it's mind-boggling to me. Like Cody does the Cody cutter, one of the moves. You know, he jumps up on the second rope, jumps backwards and grabs. I mean, some of these cutters that these guys have developed today are just unbelievable. And it all started with the diamond cutter.
Yes, it did, 100%. I love all of this. Going back even before that, because the audience always loves to get a little bit of the journey. As we were saying before we went on air, I know you grew up in Jersey, and you were actually going to be a professional athlete, but you got injured pretty badly, right?
Yeah, I got hit by a car when I was 12. And in my mind, and you have to understand that I've done everything I said I'm going to do. Like, so it's not like I say I'm going to do something and it doesn't happen. When I was 12, I was going to be playing either for the Jets or the Giants or the Cowboys. I mean, you know, one of those three teams, like mainly because those were hometown teams, and I love the Cowboys too. Like I was going to play defensive end. Like that was going to be what happened. And then I got hit by that car, and they wouldn't let me play football or hockey. And I was really good at both. And they would only let me play basketball and baseball. In baseball, you need a group of people. And basketball, you can play by yourself. You know, you can do everything. Shoot foul shots and hooks and pretend you're on the court with somebody and, you know, dribbling drills. The thing was, I sucked at it. I sucked. And like 7th grade, I didn't even make a team, but I didn't care. I played football and hockey. 8th grade, that's all I had. And I had to sit on the bench. And I'd get in occasionally, and I still sucked. And I was not used to being an athlete who sat on the bench. And that's where I learned a really valuable lesson that year. I realized there's like, no one's going to put me on the bench anymore. I'm going to become one of the best players. And I played every day, all day, that entire summer. And if I wasn't doing it, if there was a court and it was time, I was out. I didn't care if it was raining. It didn't matter. And then my freshman year, we went undefeated. I was the leading scorer. Sophomore year, I started varsity. And what it taught me was work ethic equals results. So much to the fact that when I got my Hall of Fame ring, when they asked me what I wanted inscribed inside of it, it says work ethic equals dreams, explanation point, DDP.
Absolutely love it. Mic drop. That's phenomenal, buddy. And to be honest with you, I know your whole story. Well, most of it, because I'm such a fan. Obviously, preparation breeds confidence, so let's do my homework. But more importantly, I've been a fan of you for so long, and your work ethic is second to none. I absolutely appreciate you're gritty, you're resilient, and I love all that. So I'm not surprised that you chose that to put it inscribed in the ring. It's a cool story. And then also, so after the sports stuff, at some point sooner after that, I know we're skipping around a little bit, but you ended up moving to Florida and pursuing the nightclub business, which you had a ton of success in as well, correct?
Yes, and it really started on the Jersey Shore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Jersey Shore, because that's where I grew up. And I've worked all over the Jersey Shore, bouncing, bartending. I tried to wrestle when I was 23. I had 3 matches. And the crazy part is, like, one's in an armory, one's in an West Indian hall, and the other was up in TV up in Quebec, and that's where I hurt my knee, and the same knee I get hit by the car. And so what ended up happening is I'm going to go back, working full time in the bar business, which I was still doing, but I got a chance to run my first little rock and roll place, and it was little, bar, band at the end, long bar, and that's pretty much it. But it was in between 2 other bars, so it was like you go to that bar, that bar, that bar, and it became like a party area. And then I got swept away by the booze, the broads, and the party. And I literally, got to remember, when I wrestled, it was 1979, and the wrestling hadn't blown up yet. But by the time I started spending years in the nightclub business, by the time 82 came around,
Forget about it.
and especially in New York City, it just, the WWF became the WWF, and that whole rock and wrestling thing blew up huge. And I just knew that if I would have been in the middle, if I would have kept going, I would have been in the middle of all of that. And everything happens for a reason. But at the time, I was bitter. I was mad at myself for not putting the work in. And I just stopped watching wrestling until one night I was flicking the channels and I saw Gorilla Monsoon. And he's next to a dude with a leather coat and a boas and crazy glasses and a do-rag, had the greatest voice ever, Jesse the Body Ventura. And I'm like, who the hell is that guy? He's amazing. And so I'm watching him, and the first match that comes out, the guy's got a bag over his shoulder and Fu Manchu and a long hair, and it's Jake Snake Roberts. And I'm like, who the hell is that guy? And when I watch him, I'm so blown away by not just his work in the ring, but his presence, the way he talks. Like, I'm like, knowing wrestling's a work, knowing that it's predetermined, but not, because this guy's real.
Yes.
Like, holy shit, he's the real deal. And that pulled me in. Like, that Halloween, I got dressed up in Jesse Ventura, and I was just having fun. And then I run some big ass nightclub. I opened up a few of them. I went to Houston and worked. I went from North Jersey, where I had the small rock and roll place, got an opportunity. Then I went from that to Club Xanadu in Asbury Park. And then I went from there to Houston, Texas. And then I ended up in Fort Myers, Florida, after spending a season in Fort Lauderdale, because I wanted to see what spring break was like. And Fort Lauderdale is completely different than Fort Myers, especially back then. And what ended up happening is the club that I'm doing is killing. We got 1,000 people in the bar. And one night I'm in my office, I got cameras at the front door and the back door. And I see this guy walks in, and he looks just like Jake Snake Roberts. So I go running, I can't go through the club because there's too many people. I run around the outside and I come up and I go, Judy, did a guy walk in here look just like Jake Roberts? She goes, everybody thinks it's him. I run in there like the biggest mark on the planet. I see him though, and I slow down and I'm like, hey man, you Jake the Snake Roberts? He said, who wants to know? I said, the guy who runs this place. He goes, yes. What can I do for you? I said, what are we drinking? And that's how me and Jake got to know each other. He would end up, and it's so funny, Luke, the bushwhacker, right? Like they were in there, the bushwhackers, the nasty boys, like all the guys, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. I got pictures with all these guys. This is a picture Luke put up just last week.
Oh
That's
my
me.
Goodness. What year was that?
And Ted DiBiase. Now I'm not in wrestling. I am not in wrestling at the time, right? By the end of the night, we're doing upside down shooter deals, right? Like tequila. Look at me and Ted.
Are you kidding me? That's unbelievable. $1 million man's going in. Well, you had a beautiful, nice blonde maid.
Oh my God. I still got it pretty good, but nothing like that. If it would look like that, it'd still be like that.
Understood.
But one of the things I wanted to show you, and I just pulled it up here. You got to see this. About 2 years ago, someone sends to the DDP Yoga Performance Center, like an old, what do you call it when you go into the arena and the program?
Okay.
But it's just a little program, and inside the program, it literally has 1979,
wow,
December 7th, and look where it says, Handsome Dallas Page.
My goodness.
Like, how did they find that? And the craziest thing is, I do a lot of cameos, right? And I don't do the 30-second cameo. The shortest one I think I've ever done is 4 or 5 minutes. The longest one I did was 30. And I did it for a reason, because what that person, they were doing my program and they needed help and whatever. But one of the ones I did yesterday was for a Father's Day, where the kids said that my dad used to wrestle in the late 70s and he worked with Tito Torres. Tito Torres was the guy who was training me, and he's on the top of the card. He's the champ. If it's your little promotion, you're always the champ, right? And he was a jobber for WWE. And when I saw Tito Torres, oh my God, that was one of my longest ones ever. I had so much fun. Those guys wrote me like a ridiculous 5-star review, but I put real passion into it, because almost everybody is either done my program, my DDP yoga program, or they're thinking about it, and they say it in there. And so I mix the stories up just like this.
Yeah,
I tell these type of stories, not all of them, but I try to make it as personal as possible. And that yesterday was really personal to me, because I couldn't believe that Tito, that he mentioned Tito. And that's the guy. I didn't really learn much from Tito because it was so short a period of time, but he's my guy who started me.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing that. These stories are unbelievable, and you're a hell of a storyteller, DDP. After that night at the bar, when you're ripping shots with the $1 Million Man in them, then you enter the wrestling business. I know you're a little bit older in terms of the wrestling business, probably 35 around then. You were a manager, and then eventually, I know you got your big break and you went on a solo thing. And for the audience that's listening, like 35 years young is not old. But when you're doing the wrestling business and it's all like the bumping and the touring and all that stuff, it's a little bit of a late start. And you had so many, do I dare say naysayers, but one guy that believed in you specifically was Dusty Rhodes, correct?
Dusty Rhodes. And this is a great picture of me and him 33 years ago. Now, he had come down to Fort Myers to see me because he was bummed out about me and my second fiance splitting up, and he brought me to a Willie concert. That's Dusty singing with Willie.
That's unbelievable.
How classic is that? Well, without Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, you know, I don't really have a career. He guided, and not that he gave me early breaks that were early breaks that no one would have given me. He believed in me, not as a wrestler. He believed in me as a talent, a producer, a creator. He loved my energy. He loved me on the mic. But as a wrestler, he never believed in me, because you have to understand, when I decide I'm going to get into professional wrestling, if I would have known what I know, like the chances 1,000,000,000 to 1 to become a manager at 6'4", a manager for guys, and you didn't start as a photographer like Paulie did, like Cornette did. You know, you didn't start as a wrestler like Humperdinck or J.J. Dillon, or, you know, all those guys, Bobby DeBrain. They all started as some kind of deal in wrestling, and then got the perk up to being a manager. If you didn't know anybody, it's unheard of to be able to get that spot. And I did, because of the way God aligned the planets. And I always say, you know, luck is strictly when opportunity, you know, when work ethic equals opportunity. That's what gets you to where you're going. But the first 3.5 years as a manager, I was, you know, didn't make any money. It cost me money. That's why I was running the nightclubs, so I could live my little part-time dream of being in professional wrestling. And then when I finally, Dusty, when we were in Florida Championship Wrestling, he tried to make that territory work, because when the NWA was originally bought by Ted Turner, and he bought a couple of organizations to put them together to compete with Vince, they wanted Dusty to turn heel. And he's like, no, ain't happening. And because that guy really knew who he was. And he came to Florida, and that's where I was lucky enough to actually become one of his closest friends. And he used to tell Cody that, by the way, Cody Rhodes, he's like my nephew. I've been mentoring since he was 12. He just had a little baby girl, like literally 5 hours ago. He just had a little baby girl.
Oh, really? Today?
Yes, today.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, her name is Liberty. And
we're trying to do it over there in AEW. Great stuff.
Yeah, he's really doing great. Really, really, really proud of him. But Dusty never believed in me, because I asked a couple of times, don't you think I should start wrestling? Like maybe do like Michael P.S. Hayes does, where I talk with the guys, and I get in, I work a little bit, then I get out, let them do the real work, and come out and just cause heat. And, you know, no, baby, you're going to be a fire-breather dragon. You're going to be the greatest manager of all time, you know? But one day, Magnum TA comes up to me, and he's like, D, we can't let you manage anymore. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? I mean, what are you talking about? Did I do something wrong? He's like, no, you didn't. It's really not your fault. I'm like, Magnum, what are you talking about? He said, well, it's your clothes, the hair, the bling. You know, back then, I looked like that guy.
You were still on the show.
Yeah. And this is one of my favorite pictures ever.
Oh, my goodness.
And if you look real close there, I'm wearing ripped jeans in 1989.
Killing it.
Along with Diamond Dolls. You know, you got the Diamond Dolls, you got the bling, you got the rap, you know, you got it all going. And he goes, no one's paying attention to wrestler. So he was like, you know, it's not your fault, dude. You know, I go, so basically, I'm too over the top for professional wrestling, you know, as a manager, he said, but not as one of the boys. He said, we should have given you a chance at this, thinking like, you're way too old. And the reason why, for most people, they would be right, because there's so much to learn. Like the moves, you think they're going to be like the hardest thing to learn. That's the easy shit. The real shit is figuring out how the people are going to react to you when they know that you know, and you know that they know that you know, and they know that you know that I know, me and you know who's going to win before we walk out there. Like, why should they care? That's the challenge. And that is the challenge in everything from podcasting to singers to actors to wrestlers. Why should they care? And that's the thing that takes the most time to figure out. And I was lucky because I had Dusty Rhodes and I had that guy, Jake the Snake Roberts, to guide me at times when I needed it. And I didn't always take their advice. And sometimes I was right. And sometimes I was wrong. I should have taken their advice. It would have made me way more money at times. But, you know, you live and you learn through things. And everybody sometimes has to make their own mistakes. But the people who are the smartest are the ones who listen to the people who are older than them that literally have way more experience. And if you can just check your ego, you can really accomplish amazing things. And so that day when he told me I was done as a manager, now you have to understand the Freebirds, Michael P.S. Hayes and Jimmy Jam Garvin, two of the greatest talkers ever. And those guys let me do a lot of the talking for them just because they really like me, but they would rib me. Oh my God. One day we're driving down the road and you know that the car used to have the thing you could put down for your arm in the middle section. Well, I slid, nobody's arm was up there. So I slid my right leg, because that's the knee that I had to straighten out occasionally. And Jimmy, Michael always drove. Jimmy's in shotgun. And he's like, Diamond, is that your foot in the front seat? I'm like, yeah, Jimmy, it's the one I get hit by the car, dude. Just trying to straighten out. He goes, oh, okay. All of a sudden, the son of a bitch lights my foot on fire. You know, like, not enough to burn me, but enough to know, move your fucking foot, dude. So
that's great.
They would rib the hell out of me. But that day when they heard that I wasn't managing them anymore, they were so empathetic. They were so kind as they were coming up to me like, hey, dude, we're so sorry to hear this. We feel really bad for you that, but this is the business, bro. This is the business. It just changes. And I didn't miss a beat. I was like, it's not a big deal. I appreciate that. But I know exactly what I'm going to do. I never got in this business to be a manager or a color commentator. I got in this business to be one of the boys. I got in the business to be a worker. I said, I'm going down that power plant. I got 7 months left to my contract. I am going to learn how to wrestle. And they both turned and looked at each other and they burst out laughing. They thought it was Michael's face fell down. I mean, they thought it was the funniest thing that they had ever heard because it takes too long to figure it out. They started, those two guys, at 17 and 16.
I believe it.
That's how young they were when they started. And it took years for them to grasp it. And they were like, dude, by the time you figure it out, you'll be too old. But they didn't know my work ethic and they didn't know my relationships, and how I treated that and how I really can learn 90% of the time from what someone who's got more experience can teach me.
Yeah, then you proved everybody wrong and you blew up. And there was a time, in my personal opinion, actually, it's more like a fact. You were at the very pinnacle on the top of the entire wrestling business in terms of popularity.
1997, WCW's Wrestler of the Year and Feud of the Year with me and Savage. It was a thing with me and Scott and me and Kev, the NWO, because they had killed everyone or brought them in or killed them. And I came up with the idea for them to ask me to be in. And then I go, oh, now you want me? Because I had legitimate relationship. This is when I managed Scott Hall when he was the Diamond Stud.
What a young
and Kevin Nash, Kev was and I were tag team partners until I tore my rotator cuff, and then they let me go. And that was another thing that happened. Most people don't know, because I wasn't on TV that much between 1991 and 1995, because when I tore my rotator cuff, they fired me. And that's when Jake literally moved in with me for like 3 months, because him and his old lady were split up, and he got to stay with me. And my ex-wife was super cool about it, my first one. And she was a great chick, Kimberly. She was amazing, super smart lady.
Girl, right?
Excuse me?
She was a Nitro girl?
Yep, she was that. She was my valet. She was really instrumental in a lot of my success. She was a really, really great human being. And she let Jake stay with us for 3 months until he lost a 12-foot black cobra in our house.
Come on.
Swear to God. That was a bit of drama there. And after that, Jake left. He left for like 3 days on a crack binge. And, by the time he came back, the snake was under the vanity, and I had a snake wrangler come out and get him. And he's like, dude, has he been devenomized? I'm like, I don't know. He was, but I didn't know,
Story. Wow, that's a wild story.
Crazy.
So you're at the top of the wrestling business for a while. And then also, I wanted to ask you just real quick, you made that movie, Ready to Rumble, which I absolutely loved because it was so much fun with the triple cage stuff. How was that experience?
It was great because I'm 38 forever there, and, not 38, 42. 42, yeah, 42 forever there. And at 42, I could go like crazy. But what I didn't like about it was, punch, punch, bump, bump, cut, do it again. Punch, punch, bump, bump, cut, and not just right away. They got to change camera angles to do it again and do it again. I'm like, what aren't you getting? Like, we get this shit in one take, but it really beat my body up. Yeah. Big time.
You stole the show, though. No doubt about that.
It was fun, man. It was great to have. And David Arquette has been, if you ever get a chance, watch You Can't Kill David Arquette. And he did a really cool job on a documentary recently that I really enjoyed. I actually was in it with him a little bit, but made some real good friendships out of that, and it gave me more experience acting.
And real quickly, before we dive into DDPY, I was always a diehard, lifelong WWE fan. I love WCW also, but I started with WWE. So when they bought out WCW, and I found out that you were coming, I thought it was the coolest thing in the entire world. And I don't want to talk about the past too much, but then you had the big segment with The Undertaker, which was cool, but they didn't utilize you the way that they absolutely should have. And then I think you left, but then you ended up coming back and so forth. How did you feel about that moment? Similar, that they could utilize you a little bit better, right?
Yeah, but I understand the business of it, in the ego, we spanked the WWF pretty good. We spanked them really good. Personally, I always loved the WWF, because that's what I grew up with. I'm a Jersey boy, so, I always loved WWF. And in the big picture, wasn't really happy with how they brought me in. But the last, 7-8 years, once they started, doing the best of nitros, and then they put me on so many cool things. They brought me in for legend stuff. They brought me in for the Rumble. They brought me in for, like, I was the only guy that got entrance music when the Andre the Giant Over the Top Battle Royal in Dallas, Texas. Me and Shaq, I should say. We were the guys who both got entrance music. Nobody else did. They just walked out. And then they, let me induct Jake and put me in the Hall of Fame. WWE, I got a special spot in my heart for them. They were a little aggravated with me when I helped out Cody, with AEW, but I'm helping out my boy. It's like, he's like family to me. And the last match I'll ever have was with him. I don't know if you got to see it, but at the end, there I am, flying off the top rope to the floor at 3 months from 64 years young.
64 years young, that's right. What was working with Vince like? Cool?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Had its ups and downs, but overall, the product is like, it's the number one company in the world, and we were the number one company for a couple of years there, but there'll never be another time like that. I think that AEW keeps getting better and better and better, and they've gotten some really great talent that no one has ever seen, and then they've got some talent that has been seen that is, can be seen in a different light. Like, I thought Moxley and everything he brought was way better than what he did to Dean Ambrose, because he could control what he wanted to do there. Yeah. And WWE, he really couldn't control that,
Yeah, no, 100%. DDP, first of all, number one, you're always going to be forever one of the best crowd favorites of all time of any wrestler ever. I don't think I have to tell you that once. You know that whenever you come on, everyone pops. You said such a connection with the audience, such a testament to you. Also, like, your whole life, you were always big into the personal development stuff. Like, I even read that you were listening to like Tony Robbins tapes back in the day. You're always like with the positive affirmations. You were always into that, even from an early age, right?
Sure. Here's something that I heard. God, I was 22 years old. There's a guy named Zig Ziglar.
I know.
He's a big, motivational speaker, Bible thumper. He has some of the greatest quotes I've ever heard. Now, he didn't say, I always take someone's quote and I might change it a little bit, make it my own. But it's basically what he said was, you can get whatever you want as long as you help enough people get what they want. And that's really true. There's times where you're not going to believe it because it's going to seem like, and I've been there, like you're helping everyone, but no one's helping you. Yeah. You just got to keep your head down and don't worry about that and just keep being yourself. 100%. And if you're someone who wants to help other people, like, you got to think about me becoming a wrestler at 35 and having my career take off at 40. And when it takes off, it's the hottest time ever in professional wrestling. Like, we blew away the ratings they got in the 80s. Like, we blew them away on the cable networks back when, it was, your top 10 in cable. There were many weeks where we were number one rated cable. Raw's number 2, Thunder's number 3, and SmackDown was number 4 of all 400 shows on cable. And we're in top 4 shows. We had so much viewership over that 5-year period. It was crazy, and that's where the real connection with the fans get, and it's pretty amazing. And that's what's been so great about my program. When I started DDP Yoga, like, it took me 8 years to become an overnight success. And the people who first bought in and believed in me were the wrestling fans. And today, it's probably about 55% wrestling fans and 45% people who have no idea I ever wrestled because they don't really know about that world.
That's a good thing.
And they might have seen something really positive, Arthur Borman's video,
I'll
the
never forget when I
resurrection.
saw that for the first time. It just touched my heart. It was beautiful. And then obviously the Jake documentary, how you helped him and so forth. Unbelievable.
Did you get a chance to see Relentless yet?
No.
Oh, you guys see Relentless, bro. Relentless is just out on Amazon Prime, and it goes from me blowing my back out right to where we are today. And the story is not like that.
Yeah.
It's like that before we start to really take off.
I can't wait.
And
I'm going to watch it this weekend. When did it come out?
Couple months ago.
I'm surprised I haven't seen it. I've seen everything else from the Arthur stuff and the Jake, even the Scott Hall.
Yeah, it was powerful.
Really?
You know, Jake is doing so good right now.
Good.
Scott's doing so much better. But Jake is doing unbelievable. Like, I talk to him every couple of days. You know, he's back. He's on AEW. They treat him like the legend that he is. He also, like me, does a ton of cameos. And he's about to start his he's been doing a one-man show for about 5 years. And in the resurrection of Jake the Snake, you may remember Mick Foley doing some stand-up on stage.
Yep.
And then he invited us up there. And afterwards, we were driving home, Jake goes, you know, I could do that. I said, of course you could do that. You're the greatest storyteller ever. And he's really turned, he's got 5 different shows that he does.
That's great.
And because he'll go back to the same places, you know. And Tony Khan, who owns the AEW and the Jacksonville Jaguars and a couple of teams over in football teams over in Europe, he's a really good guy and he loves Jake. And they're going to let people know that, like, say they're filming on a Wednesday in, pick it, Rochester, New York. He'll be at a club the next day doing his stand-up, and they're going to, you know, let everybody know the thousands and tens of thousands of people who will be in the arena. Oh, by the way, you can see Jake tomorrow. You know, it's going to be, he'll be selling out everywhere. It's going to be great.
I love all this. DDP, I'll never forget when I saw you on Shark Tank. And I just got to ask you, because you've been so successful because your work ethic, your heart, your grit, your desire, everything, whether it was a nightclub business or being the best manager, so good that they told you to chill out. It's obviously the top of the wrestling business, and now DDPY. When did you know for certain, like in your soul, that DDPY was the next thing? It was going to be a household name where it is today.
You know, it's got to go back to before it clicked off. And I'll never forget it. Brian Alvarez is one of the writers and has his own podcast for Dave Meltzer, who's like the guy who people hit. If there's something happens in wrestling, Dave Meltzer is the guy they contact. But one of his guys, his top guy, is Brian Alvarez. And Brian and I, about, let's see, DDPY has been just killing it for the last 9 years.
Crushing.
Excuse me?
Crushing it.
Yeah, just been like, it's been unbelievable. The app has just changed everything. But we've been really hot for the last coming up on 9 years. About 12 years ago, I was doing an interview with him, and he says, "Where is Diamond Dallas Page 5 years from now?" And I said, "Well, 5 years from now, I will be known as the new Jack LaLanne meets Tony Robbins meets straight Richard Simmons." And I said, "I honestly believe that at some point, DDPY is going to overshadow my wrestling career." And he was like, "Remember, it's not caught on at all yet." And he's like, "What now, D? Good program." Because he's also, Brian Alvarez is also a wrestler. So he used it all the time, help heal his body. And he goes, "Really good program, bro. But dwarfing your wrestling career? You had like a Hall of Fame career, bro. He goes, I don't know. I don't see how you can see that. I said, well, I'm just telling you. You asked me, I'm telling you. See, this Arthur Boorman video, I created one with his son, and it was really good. So I knew what was there. But what Steve did 3 years after that, so it's been about 9 years ago in May, what Steve Yu, my business partner, did was he just tooled some of it and changed the music and just hit you in the heart. Steve Yu is also the director of The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. Nathan Mowry directed Relentless, but Steve still oversaw it. And Steve's my business partner and one of the best storytellers I've ever met. Like, I create these stories and he shows them and helps connect like what we're doing.
Love it. This thing is taking off and the best is yet to come. To be honest with you, with what you just said, it's going to dwarf your wrestling career, even though, in my opinion, your wrestling career is at the very top. I don't think anybody is dumb enough to bet against you based on everything. And just looking backwards for a second, like that quote that Steve Jobs said, you connect the dots to the bottom. Everything that you've ever done, you went all in, mastered it, and overachieved and so forth. So I'm so proud of you and so excited for you with everything that you got going on now with DDPY. For the audience that's listening, because we have 250,000 downloads now, where's the best place for them to catch up with you, support you, see what you got going on, specifically and especially with the DDPY?
You know, and I tell everybody this, like, don't listen to a word I say about my program. There's a community on Facebook, and DDP Yoga, one word. It's just a membership group, where you click on, you like the page, you're a member. Has over, my buddy started it with 5 of his friends because they do the program and they like to talk about different things. And now it's got 63,000 of the most passionate people ever. And I tell people, if you want to know what I'm doing with my program, go there and ask them. Don't ask me. If you want to follow me, on Twitter at DDP Yoga, at Diamond Dallas Page, Twitter at DDP Yoga, at Real DDP. And of course, on Facebook, I've got my Diamond Dallas Page athlete site and my DDP Yoga site. But that Facebook site, DDP Yoga, one word, because I was spelled 2 words, but they put it together as one word. It's just unbelievable. It, like, what's on my app, and anybody can try it for free for 7 days. Every Monday is Motivational Monday. Every Tuesday is a new workout. There's over 300 workouts. And as you can imagine, people have said to me, oh, Diamond, I can't do your workout. You'll kill me. Back up. I have a whole rebuild section, DDPY rebuild, where you start in bed. You can't get out of bed? My bed flex workouts, I have 3 of them. They help you get out of bed and then go to my chair force workouts where you're sitting in a chair. And they strengthen you to get to the next spot where you're standing strong with our Stand Strong workouts, holding on to a chair. That's how I had to start. Disabled veteran Arthur Boorman, Jake Roberts, Scott Hall. I mean, that list goes on. And I created like 12 workouts around using the chair. And really, once you've learned how to use the chair, you can do any of my workouts, all the way up to my Psycho Extreme stuff, because you can use the chair to help you out. We've got a bunch of different, really, there's no healthy cooking. There's I don't know, probably 300 cooking shows on television. All that food, it may taste great, but it's not real food, most of it. Real food is non-GMO. And most of the shit that everybody's eating is genetically modified shit. Read the labels. Now, if you want to know what's not GMO, it'll say non-GMO, because the food is so bad in our country. I was just in Medellin, Bolivia. I was in Medellin, Colombia, getting stem cells, both shoulders, both knees,
Oh, really?
my neck, my back.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. Really, really good. But their food was unbelievable. And it was all what God creates out of the ground. Where our soil is so ruined. You've got to really learn about food. It'll still build you up. It'll still give you muscle. But as you go on and you lose youth, that same food that has built you up is going to break you down. And I know more about food than 95% of the doctors out there. And I know because I'm 65 and I'm preparing for 75, 85, 90, 105. And my body is pure and strong. This was a whole bottle of organic. Don't just drink juice like, green juice. If it doesn't say organic, don't drink it, because that's like taking out pesticides and just spraying them on your tongue. I eat everything that's natural. That's why we've been talking for about an hour. I can stand here and talk to you and just friggin' take either foot, we'll take this one, and put it in your face. See, I'm not holding on to anything. Pull it over my head at 6'4", 224 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal, and still 65 years young.
DDP, you're more flexible than those old school Stretch Armstrongs. Remember those?
But not just flexible and strong. To hold your leg up like that, that's all core strength.
Absolutely.
And that's youth. And when people see me do that, they just go like, how did he do that? Because of my program. Go to ddpyoga.com or ddpy.com and get the app for 7 days, cost you nothing. Craig, great to meet you, buddy. Loved your girl too, coming in there. And you actually have a great unit going. Let me ask you something. You obviously train.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you doing? 4 body parts a week? What are you doing?
Right now, I'm training for the Chicago Marathon, which is in October. So mostly runs, and in the 2 days that I'm cross training, I just go up and clang and bang a little bit with the weights. But I should get into the yoga.
Okay, so let me ask you something. Since you're training for that, have you ever heard of BFR training? Blood flow restriction.
No.
It's going to be huge. All right. I won't get into the history. What I'm going to do is send you a tape. I'll get your home number from Marlon. We're going to send you a tape. One of my doctors. I've got like 5 doctors, like MD doctors, that are certified in training my stuff. So this is a real deal. And these blood flow bands, if you'll say you'll do them, I'll send you the arm bands and the leg bands, and have you do my Jacked series workouts. And I'll hook you up with the ad, I'll hook you up with the fail, and then I'll hook you up with the straps. And then 90 days later, we'll come back.
Done.
But you got to tell me, like, you can't lift weights while you do. You can run, you can do anything else, because I want to see your body.
It's actually perfect timing. No, this is great. And just like I read your book, and like I'm different than the rest of them. I'm dead serious. You have my word right here, right now. I will do it. I'll make you.
Because you already got a great body, but I want pictures, the whole deal, and then let's see where you are. 45. Do it every 30 days. The pictures.
I would love.
And we'll get to 90 days. It's gonna blow your mind.
At the end of it, I'll fly down and come meet you and shake your hand in person.
Well, we'll come down and we'll do a whole video on it. We'll do the 100%. Whole thing down here. I got a full-blown production company, bro. So
DDP,
all right, man.
You're the best ever. I got to say this to you, my friend. You don't shy away from the challenges as they've shaped you, something I find so relatable and liberating. I want you to know you're the definition of resilience, grit, and heart, from overcoming adversity at an early age to following your passion of not only becoming a professional wrestler, but an absolute legend and Hall of Famer. You've revolutionized fitness by helping people change their own lives physically and, most importantly, mentally with DDPY. I can personally guarantee your best is yet to come. You're someone I admire, I appreciate, I respect very much. No one would bet against you, DDP. Keep on being a beacon of hope and light for transformation. And you have my word right here, right now. This will absolutely not be the last time that you and I collaborate.
No, dude, we're getting together on 90 days. You're going to come down here and then we're going to film it again. All right. So I'll get your number and I'll call you back, bro. Hey, awesome time. It's been your pleasure. Bang!
Bang! Thank you for
See you, buddy.
I appreciate it, brother.
Great talking to you.
We'll chat soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye. You kidding me? I know what you're thinking. Where can I find a Jessica Heller?